Hi, it's your $2 Tuesday movie critic here today with another movie. Today I'm going to be reviewing Lucy. Now this is the movie starring Scarlett Johansson and Morgan Freeman, and it's of course in theaters right now. This movie for me was, I won't say it was a disappointment because that would be the wrong word to use, because it was just not what I expected. Kind of like when I reviewed the movie Tammy, and I was expecting something totally different from what I saw. Well, not completely, but different. And so with this one, I am a big fan of action movies, but full disclosure, I do not really like Scarlett Johansson's acting. And, I mean, for me, in every movie she's ever been in, pretty much, it's always been pretty much the same, with the exception of the X-Men movies as Black Widow, as she plays Black Widow, because she does more hand-to-hand than she does talking. And I actually find that refreshing. But so I wasn't really excited to see this movie just because I don't really like Scarlett Johansson's acting. But I love a good action movie, and I really love a good action movie when it's a girl kicking butt. Call me sexist if you will, but yeah, I do. So anyway, so I was looking forward to this, to see her in action and see if she was going to be taking the torch from the likes of Angelina Jolie and Halle Berry and even Vivica Fox, who have all done their own fisticuff type movies in the past. When I saw the movie, I found that it was action, but it was more towards suspense type action. Yes, there was a lot of shooting. So, okay. But for me, action is more about hand-to-hand, more about a bit of drama mixed in with comedy, mixed in with always some on the go doing something, you know, edge of your seat sort of thing. And that's why I give it the suspense type of action as opposed to the active action. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying when I say that, but that's what I got from this movie. It wasn't really action. Yes, there was a lot of shooting, no doubt. So I guess if you go by that with your action, like those people that like Iron Man, where there's a lot of shooting, a lot of blowing up. Me personally, I don't like Iron Man. But if you like your action like the Expendables, where there's a lot of fisticuffs going on, there's a blowing up stuff too, of course, and there's a lot of running and physical things going on, well then that's the type of action I'm talking about, physical action. There wasn't a lot of physical action in this movie, and the thing about this movie is that it also goes from action, if you will, to science fiction. It goes into the science fiction realm. Actually, about the latter part of the movie is mostly science fiction. And I was not looking for that to happen at all. So that is what I mean when I say that it was unexpected. I got something different when I saw the movie than I expected to see. It's a really good movie. It's just not what you expect. If you like action movies, like The Expendables, like Kill Bill, things like that, Quentin Tarantino type movies, no, this is not the movie you want to go see. But if you like suspense type action movies like Kiss the Girls, Morgan Freeman does a really good job in this movie. His part is pretty minor in the background. Not to say that you don't see him for most of the movie, because you see him for 3/4 of the movie. It's just that his role is more of a narrator, so to speak. Even though you see him, he's pretty much explaining to you what's going on, even though you may not realize it. And if you don't get everything from what Morgan Freeman is saying, then there are the additional help of the animals. From the very beginning till probably about the middle part of the movie, they're like these cuts to animal scenes that kind of like are a metaphor but for what's happening in the movie. And I thought that was pretty cool. I like that. If you like her, you'll like the movie. If you like the thriller side, more inactive type action movies, if you will, then you will also like the movie. And if you're a sci-fi buff, you will really, really like the movie. Even though you don't really see the science fiction till about the middle to the end of the movie. Parents, I would not take any child of mine to see this movie. It's definitely not for children at all. Or if you're trying to scare your teenagers into going overseas to have a good time, well, then this is a movie. Because it is very, very scary for that. Most of the movie, there's cursing. But it's I guess you could say it's warranted. It's not like salacious or anything like that. There is no nudity, and there is no sexual scenes, whatever, unless you call kissing sexual. And it's not even really a sexual type kiss. But you'll have to see it for yourself. It's only one, so you won't miss it. There may be one or two scenes where there's actual, real hand-to-hand, and one of them really isn't at all. It's more of hand. I'll just say that. Okay, so, but I think that some people will like the movie, some people will be kind of disappointed. I wasn't disappointed, but I will say that I don't want to see the movie again. It's not one of those things I would go out of my way to see. I wouldn't buy the DVD or anything like that. If I saw it on cable again, I might watch it, because the animal scenes were, some of them anyway, some of them were like, eek, but some of them were quite entertaining. So, the two old school movies that I got to compare to Lucy were like one that's in the sci-fi realm and the other that's more in the suspense, thriller / mystery realm, so if you will. Okay, so the first one is The Lawnmower Man. This movie came out back in 1992, and it stars Pierce Brosnan and Jeff Fahey. Now, Pierce Brosnan plays Dr. Angelo, and Jeff Fahey plays Job, the Lawnmower Man. And there are a lot of other characters in there that you would recognize. When I initially saw the movie, which wasn't in 1992, I didn't see it when it came out in theaters. I actually saw it on video. If I can watch this, anybody that doesn't like scary movies can watch this, because I had to watch it again last night so that I could get a reminder of, you know, what it was about. It was a pretty simple plot. You know, the scientist is trying to do research and it's halted because there were some complications. So, of course, he was doing his research on animals, a chimpanzee, and the chimpanzee ends up getting killed. So his experiments are halted. So instead of him, you know, deciding, okay, well, maybe I went too far, he decides, oh, maybe I didn't go far enough, and maybe I didn't have the right person to experiment on. So instead of getting a chimpanzee, he goes up a level and gets a human who happens to be Job the Lawnmower Man. And the way I compare it to Lucy is the sci-fi part of it. When Morgan Freeman enters the movie Lucy, he is giving a lecture on the percentage of the brain that we use. And in The Lawnmower Man, that's basically what Dr. Angelo is trying to discover as well. But the way Dr. Angelo is trying to discover it is through virtual reality. And just so you get, fun fact, just in case who may or may not know, this is the first movie that deals with virtual reality. I didn't know that either. So that was pretty cool. But this takes you to a virtual reality realm, which Dr. Angelo decides to use Job to experiment on. The scientist in the movie Lucy, played by Morgan Freeman, doesn't, of course, experiment on Lucy. Lucy's the one that contacts him. It is just the opposite in the movie Lawnmower Man, where the scientist knows Job because he is the Lawnmower Man. He comes and mows his lawn, and he knows that he has limited brain capacity, meaning he's slow. And so he decides that he's the perfect person to experiment on. So he tells Job that he's giving him vitamins, which are not, of course, and that he wants him to play a lot of games. And Job doesn't know what's going on. He trusts Dr. Angelo. Actually, Job pretty much trusts everybody. And he does what Dr. Angelo says. And of course, the experiments keep going. Now, and Lucy, the scientist, is the only person that Lucy does trust as well. But she's the one that's running the show. He pretty much is just trying to help her if he can. Dr. Angelo, of course, doesn't expect things to go so rapidly, or for Job to absorb so much information and gain so much knowledge as rapidly as he does. So that also becomes a problem. But what Dr. Angelo doesn't know is the people that are affording him the opportunity to do these experiments get involved and kind of like tweak the information that's going to Job's head to where it causes him problems. Things that happened to Lucy as the drugs began to change her are exactly the same things that happened to Job when the drugs began to change him. They just don't explain it the same way in The Lawnmower Man as they explain it in Lucy. So in The Lawnmower Man, just like Lucy, Job begins to have the power first of telepathy. And then later on, he gets the power of telekinesis. And then later on, he begins to want more power. And then he decides that the best thing is for him to be a part of the universe and be pure energy, so he can be everywhere. Now, I won't get into too much of that with Lucy because, again, I don't want to give away the movie to anybody. But the similarities are very much there, except for the thing with Lucy is that she's not in control. Job, to a certain point, is in control, and in his decision-making process, once he realizes that he's being experimented on. Once he does that, then it's up to him to decide, hey, am I going to keep doing this, or am I going to stop altogether, because he has that power now. And of course, in Lawnmower Man, Job decides that he wants more power. But Lucy is more of a survival thing. That's the way I compare Lawnmower Man to Lucy. Now, the other old school movie that I compare to Lucy is Brokedown Palace. And this came out back in 1999. And it starred Claire Danes and Kate Beckinsale. Now, I watched this movie years ago. And again, I had to watch it again last night so that I can refresh my memory. And I really did not realize Kate Beckinsale was in this movie. And at the time, Kate Beckinsale wasn't really a name. It was more about Claire Danes. And even Bill Pullman, who was in it as well. And Jacqueline Kim, who wasn't a big name at the time either. The comparison that I make to these is, of course, Lucy being a drug mule, just like the two girls were drug mules. The thing that kind of connects that is neither one of them wanted to be, none of these girls wanted to be drug mules. And, I mean, who would? But they had no idea what was going on. They both, in both movies, the females meet a charming guy. Well, the guy in Lucy wasn't necessarily charming. I think her connection to him was that he was a good time. But the guy in Brokedown Palace, an Aussie with an accent, you know, but he was very charming, and both of the girls in Brokedown Palace end up falling for him. In Lucy, she does not fall for the guy. Actually, she just, like I said, thinks of the guy as a good time. And when the good time is over, she's ready to part ways. These two guys in both movies, the Lucy and in Brokedown Palace, are the ones that introduce these girls into basically the experience of being a drug mule. Now, you will find out, and this is not giving anything away, so don't worry, because everybody knows that in the movie, if you've seen the previews, you know that Lucy does become a drug mule. That you find that the guy, I call him the cowboy. They say his name, but I honestly forgot it. Anyway, so I call him the cowboy because he has the cowboy hat on. He actually was supposed to be the drug mule, but he gets Lucy to become the drug mule, and I'll let you see how that happens. And you know, you don't actually know that in the beginning of the movie, but you find that out when you see the other people that are also drug mules. In both movies, they're in different parts of Asia, and in both movies, the girls find themselves in a corrupt system, pretty much. Lucy's you don't get to see as much of as in Brokedown Palace, because in Brokedown Palace, the whole time they're dealing with the corrupt system. The mystery again is which girl, because that's the whole thing. I think that's what really keeps people hanging on to the very end of the movie, is wondering which girl was the one that agreed to take the drugs. This is my theory. My theory is that because if you see the movie, you know that Darlene ends up being with the guy, but later on, the next day or so, Alice ends up, trying to flirt with him as well, and they don't show what happens, but they show Alice come back later to the room, and she's gone for most of the day. Now, she later confesses to their attorney that she did end up going to his room, and he tried something, but she didn't let him. But why? She never answers the question as to why she went to his room. And this is where my theory comes in. I believe that she agreed to take the containers, but I don't think she ever looked inside the containers, and I believe he told her not to look inside the containers. And I believe that she thought that he wasn't trying to do something to get them in trouble. He wouldn't do anything to hurt them, so she never looked in the containers. She just took it for granted that it was just something, that he was doing to test her loyalty to him and to see if maybe she was the girl for him instead of Darlene, because Darlene could never handle anything like this. He entrusted it with her. So she does it, and she doesn't look in the containers. So she has no idea that there are drugs in there. So that's how I think that every time when they ask her if she does it, she says, I didn't do it. And what she's saying is, I didn't agree to be a drug mule, because she didn't know that there were drugs in there. There's no other time anyone else has that bag but Alice, from the time they leave the hotel to the time they get to the airport. And again, even though Darlene is the naive of the two, Darlene also has a very strong sense of right and wrong. And no matter how naive she may be, and how much she would probably sway for the sweet words of this guy, she would not feel good about doing something wrong. And she probably feels that taking these packages is wrong, because if it were right, he would do it himself. Where Alice doesn't necessarily have that moral compass going on. And they talk about it as in the past, Alice has always gotten Darlene into trouble, or has tried to lead her down a wrong path. So that's my theory as to why both girls deny that they did anything. Those are the two movies that I compare to the Lucy movie. The Lawnmower Man for the sci-fi factor, and the Brokedown Palace for the drug mule type factor. so to speak. Okay, well, I hope you liked my review today, and if you have some other movies that could compare to Lucy Bedford, please let me know. Like I said, I only compare the movies that I've actually seen myself. Alright, so until next time, have a great day.